All right, Hobie, Outback walkthrough take 4. We'll try this again. Wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I kept turning the camera, which obviously wouldn't have turned out. So one fast RPH, Chris here, to walk through my 2017 Hobie Outback. People have asked me a lot about this boat, why I got this model and how I got it set up. And I know when I set it up, I looked far and wide for examples. So I took a lot of those examples when I put this together, and I got some ideas of my own. So why did I go with the Hobie Outback? I have got into trolling Lake Michigan on the Wisconsin side around Milwaukee for trout and salmon. So I used a paddle kayak. I had a Cuda LT, which I love that boat. I love paddling, but you don't last long paddling out on Lake Michigan. And when you hook up to a fish, you obviously have to stop paddling, and that's when the shit show starts, as I like to say. But with the pedal drive, you can actually keep the troll going. You can use the pedaling to help hook up the fish, and you actually have a chance to land doubles and triples if you're really good out there. Other reason I went with the Hobie over the other pedal drives is right here, the drive doesn't come up very high because your feet just go back and forth. With the circular pedal drive, your feet are going up and down. It takes up much more space right here, and I wanted to conserve space because I may be running rod holders up front. Third reason, obviously, the Hobies you can run near zero draft, and when you pull the drive up, it doesn't take up a lot of space. And when I haul it in a car, it doesn't take up a lot of space. When you pull some of those bicycle style drives up, you got all this stuff going on up here, taking up all that space, and I didn't want that. I wanted something nice and clean. Also went with the Hobie because I wanted a nice, clean fish locator install. My last one, I had a portable one hanging over the side, and I had to put it on and take it off every time I went out, and I wanted to be nice and clean on this one, build everything in. So I kind of went all out on this boat when I put it together. Obviously, it's got the turbo fins, sailing rudder. Sailing rudder's huge. This thing turns on a dime. I'm a cyclist. I can pedal all day long at 80 to 100 RPM, so pedaling this thing's no problem at all. On Lake Michigan last week, pedaled just about 20 miles out there that day. Not 20 miles out, but 20 miles in all as we were trolling just offshore. When I really get with it with the turbo fins in this yak, I can get about 5.5 miles an hour. That's really hard work, though. I can't go very far. 5, I can go for a good distance. 4.5 is pretty easy for me. 3.5, I can do all day long. When we troll Lake Michigan, we're trolling about 1.5 to 1.8 miles per hour, so not very fast, and it doesn't really wear you out. One thing about this kayak is it's a little wetter ride than I was used to in the Cuda. You get a little hull slap when there's waves, and that's because I go on rough chop on a big lake, so get a little wetter than I have in the past. I wear a dry suit this time of year, so it's no worries at all. The water drains right out. Working from the front back, the only thing I did up front, put a little 550 cord through the eyelet. That gives me something to run a tie down through. That's not my main tie down, it's just kind of a safety third tie down. I like to have that nose kind of cinched down. When I run tie downs, I run them through the handles there, so down the cup holder, under the handles, and around, and then I run one through the back. I haul this in the back of a Toyota Tacoma long bed with a bed extender on it. When I haul it short distances, I just carry it right side up with some foam blocks under it. These kayaks are ideally hauled upside down. They have nice flat areas. If I was going to haul it any distance on the interstate, I'd probably do that. When I brought it home, I hauled it upside down. And when I get to the actual gear tracks and rod holders, it's part of the reason I ran the gear tracks in the wells, is if I want to strip this thing down, it leaves that flat area that I could haul this thing upside down. Okay, we covered the very front. Next thing's pretty cool here. I'm a bicyclist, so I got all kinds of bike parts laying around. Had an old piece of mountain bike handlebar, and guess what? It fits perfectly in the mast hole. So I took that, took some ram parts. I got boxes full of ram parts from motorcycles, and put my Garmin Verb on there. So it shoots straight at me. I take more photos and video on the water. Of course, my neighbor's going to mow the lawn now. Um, it works well. I can run a remote. I have a remote on my life vest. I have a remote on a cell phone, and I can actually run a remote off. I have a Garmin Fenix 3 watch that I track my athletic endeavors with, that I can run a remote on this as well. Cool thing with this that I played around with, I haven't done yet, is I may put some eyelets here on both sides and run cord through the eyelet and up to the mount. And what happens is if I pull the cord on either side, I can pan the camera. So I played with that. I mocked it up. It works. It's kind of novel. I may do that. I spent a lot of time gearing this thing up for fishing and just getting out and fishing it. But when I get bored and start tinkering more, I think I'm probably going to do that and get creative with how I pan that camera. Although I do like the ability just to pop this thing out. If I want to slide it out the mast tool, I could put it underwater and shoot some underwater shots if I wanted to also. Okay, moving on back. These front Hobie rod holders are about useless to me, so I mounted Scotty flush mounts over the top, which work well. They would put my trolling rods at about ankle shin level, which is what I was used to on a paddling kayak to keep them out of the paddle stroke. But on this one, I found an even better place. So I'm glad I put these up here, but I'm not going to use them as much as I thought I would. The key to mounting these is kind of centering those over there as best you can, because the molding on those molded in ones is wider on the inside. So you got to make sure where your holes go, you're going to be able to back them with a nut. And on both of these, I got 3 of them backed really well, and the 4th one was a little tight, and I had to use a wing nut instead of a lock nut on it, but it's very solid. Those work really well. The other thing when you drill holes, of course, make sure there's no cables running where you're going to drill, so you pull the cable all the way. And when you're using it, make sure there's no exposed threads a cable's going to rub against, or you're going to want to cover those somehow so you don't wear cables out. These are free and clear, so they work well. Let's go back to the locators on both sides. 4-inch Yak Attack gear track, top loading gear track. I just used the self-tapping screws on these. It's solid enough for this use. I figured give these a shot. If they don't work, I'll drill them out with the bigger hole and put the bolts on. There's no reason to bolt these 4-inch ones with just the stuff on it. It's not pulling on it very hard. Works really well. There's nothing on the backside that's going to rub the back of those screws, so I'm not worried. I'm going to walk around the kayak here and talk about the locator. So this is a Lowrance Elite 5 tie. Side imaging, total scan is what Lowrance calls it. Love it. This thing is awesome. Touch screen, works great. I went all out when I built it, and I got a Naqua. It's inside this $10 Walmart dry box. A Naqua 10 amp hour lithium ion battery. Being a cyclist, I'm fanatical about lightweight. All the weight adds up over time, so I try to save weight where I can. That Naqua battery is super, super light. They go for about $130. You use a coupon at Austin Kayak, you get it down to about $110, $115, which I thought was worth it. People ask how long does it last. I just spent 12 hours on Lake Michigan a week ago, and it was going strong at the end of the day still. Ran side imaging all day long. Speaking of side imaging, that is the transducer. That is a Burley Pro transducer cover. That thing works awesome. Images are great, protects it. The only thing is you can't drag this kayak around the lawn or around the beach as you'd like to with that thing hanging under there, but otherwise works great. This side of the kayak, 4-inch gear track, a bunch of RAM parts I had laying around, and then an X grip for a cell phone. I got my old cell phone on there that a lot of times I'll use my old one in there, just run Wi-Fi to the Verb camera that I can run Verb Edit right on that phone, and I can frame images and see where the camera's pointing really well. Or I use my good cell phone and try not to drop it in the lake. moving on back. This is where it starts getting pretty cool. Set up in Lake Michigan mode right now. 16-inch top-loading Yak Attack gear tracks with Mighty Mounts holding Scotty blocks with extenders, with Cabela's rod holders, with the Scotty slip discs on there so I can micro adjust them. 16-inch gear tracks. Again, I put things in the well here because if I strip this thing down, I could still haul it upside down. The first 4 bolts on the tracks you can't see here, I was able to reach through the hatch to the back of those, so I backed those with a Scotty backing plate with bolts. The remainder of the bolts are the self-tapping screws that come with the gear track. This thing is solid. If for some reason I don't think it's solid, I'll drill out the next 4 and put another backing plate, but I don't think I need to. So I run 2 rod holders with extenders there. Again, I could run those up front trolling. I found I like this position. This rod has an incredibly long butt. I don't think I'd ever buy a rod with a butt that long again. But I'm a skinny guy. I'm only 165 pounds, 6 foot. I'm a cyclist. I can fit in there. It sits in my lap fine. I like that I can grab it. Either get a shorter rod butt or I can run them up front, but I like where it sits right there. And actually, as much as I dislike that rod, I was fighting a big brown trout the other day, and I'm like, man, I like the butt of this rod to get some leverage on this fish. So it actually worked out well. I'm not going to cover the tackle much, but line counter reels for running out there. Medium heavy rods most of the time. So gear track on this side. Again, the Scotty blocks with the main rod holders. Behind there, I have a shorter Scotty mounted. And on this side, I just happen to have a ram. I use those inland just to set rods when I'm not using them. But this one here, I can actually point a rod off the back. We can run 3 lines in Wisconsin. So this third line I run lead core off of almost straight off the back. So I can run 2 lines off the sides with cranks or divers or dipsies, something to get the line down if I don't have a crankbait on there. And I can run lead core off the back. That'll help get spoons and stuff down deeper. Vantage seat, high-low, great seat, love that. My obligatory crate from my last kayak, it's the larger size, ordered that from Austin Kayak. Fits in there well. I took a 4-place Cabela's rod holder, cut it in half and put half on each side, and then I had some PVC on the back that I can stick nets and stuff in the back. Put a lot of my Lake Michigan goodies in here, torpedo divers, planer boards, things like that. But 3 Plano boxes. If there's one thing I dislike about the Hobie, it's just the lack of tackle storage compared to my old Cuda. Cuda had tons of tackle storage, which I loved. I could put a square hatch in this and do more tackle storage here, but I'm getting used to being more efficient with what I do. I think that's about it. Going to the back, a little loop of 550 cord back there if I got to run a tie down. I bought the Hobie heavy duty cart. I had a cart and I didn't like the way it fit, so I thought, well, I'll go buy the Hobie cart that's made exactly for this kayak and hope it fits better. It doesn't fit any better than the other cart I had, so it really kind of bugs me that the stoppers don't stop where I think they should stop on the boat. So I actually put some chunks of pool noodle on them, and it fits a lot better. The kayak is up on a stand right now. I bought this stand's pretty cool. I bought these and they showed up. I'm like, that's not it's far smaller than I thought it was when I thought I was buying a taller stand. Got it from REI, but it's actually just the right height. That when I can wheel it up on land, put the stand under it, the stand's just enough to take the weight off the wheel. So it's actually really nice to store it on. The stand fits in the truck. I can carry it with me. I use my REI dividend on that, so it didn't really cost me anything. And there's 2, one on the front, one on the back. That's about it. Hobie Outback 2017, great boat. Very, very happy with it so far. I'm going to set it up in inland mode and do another walkthrough with that. So see you later.